Welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and we're going to continue with the FoodCan modeling series, and we're going to go ahead and create a low poly. In video 4, I suggested maybe going a little higher resolution with the low poly on the outside, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click on the cylinder primitive and scale it up. And we're going to fit it just outside of the mesh of the high poly. I've got the high poly, should reference the high poly, so I'm going to go down to the layer editor and click R. Click on the button until it says R to reference it so I can't select it. So I'm going to go to the side view and look at it from here. And I'm going to go ahead and move it up and center it up as close as I can. Visually center it. And then scale it up to the size of the can. Okay, so it just kind of envelops the entire can. And you may want to change the subdivision axes before you scale it. We'll see if it actually will allow me to add subdivisions. Sometimes if you scale a primitive before you add change the subdivisions, it could go crazy on you. And what do I mean by crazy? The points will go all over the place. So if that happens, just start over again, get another cylinder and change it to 16. We're going to go ahead and change the axes to 16. Hit enter, and I'm going to go ahead and delete every other edge from the top view. So I'm going to right click and go to edge mode and select every other edge, and I'm going to kind of marquee select, holding the shift key down, every other edge. So I'm holding the shift key down, left mouse button, marquee selecting every other one. And as you can see, doing it from the top view will do the top and the bottom. And I'll hit delete. So now we've got a can that has quadrangles, and we've got a fairly low res can at 32, so we fit within the low poly perimeters. And looks like the can is just a little bit too I can still see the low or the high poly underneath, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And now you can see that I'm a little off here, so I'm going to go ahead and move those vertices up. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the top and see if I need to move those vertices down. So we want it just to barely envelop the can. We don't want it sticking out anywhere. And that looks pretty good. Okay. So now with the low poly, we're ready to move on to laying out UVs. Before we do that, we want to always edit, delete by type history, and modify freeze transformations. And of course, we want to modify and center pivot. So those are the three things that we always want to do when we get finished with the model before we start texturing or laying out UVs. Okay, so we're going to lay out UVs. I'm going to show you two different ways of laying out UVs in this video. So the first one is to just select your faces that you would like to UV map. So I'm going to go to face mode. I'm going to select the center. And I'm also going to open up Windows. I'm going to open up the UV editor. Okay. Alright, so you can see that my here's my UV space between 0 right here and 1, 0 and 1, and this is the grid that I can use. I have to fit the UVs within this grid, and so when we lay out UVs, basically The word layout means we unfold the UVs and we lay them outside of the UV space and then pack them back in. So with the faces selected, hold down the space bar and go to UV and cylindrical map. So we've got three different types: cylindrical, planar, and spherical. We're going to use the cylindrical map for the cylinder shape. So I'm going to click on that, and notice that in my UV editor it now looks like that. So with the selection, all I have to do is hit the W key and move this out of the way. You want to lay that out. Again, laying out UVs. Lay the UVs out. And you can move around in here by holding the Alt key and the middle mouse button. You can rotate around. Of course, you can't rotate around. You can move around. So holding the Alt key and the middle mouse will let you move around in here. You can use the scale tool by the middle mouse, just scaling in and out. Or you're going to use the Alt key in the middle and the left mouse, or excuse me, yeah, the right mouse button to zoom in and out. Or you can use the middle mouse button. Okay. So when we move these around, these are now UVs. So I can right click over here and go to UV and select this object, marquee select it, and it will select these UVs. Okay? Now you can see I can move the UVs, but it won't move anything here. What it's going to do is it's moving in UV space, which is 2 dimensions. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we laid those out, so those are laid out nicely. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go back to face mode. This time I'm going to paint the faces, and if you hold the B key down with the left mouse button, you can move your mouse back and forth and it will make the area bigger, larger, or smaller. So I'm going to paint these guys on top. Okay, shouldn't be too hard, and if it's a little more difficult, then you probably need to make the brush bigger. I'm going to go on the bottom, and I'm going to do this one at a time. So we're going to separate these out. So the top's going to have its own UV space, and the bottom is going to have its own UV space. So I'm going to go in here and go to UVs, and we're going to go to planar this time. And how planar works, I'm going to Control Z back because I need to go in to the actual object, or excuse me, the option box. So this allows me to go in here, and since it's in the Y direction, it's facing the Y value, I'm going to click on Y axes. And the way to find out which axes you're in is look at the viewport axes right here at the very bottom corner. And so it's telling me it's in the Y, so I'm going to click Y and click project. Okay, and so you can see that here it is. I'm going to hit the W key and move it out. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom. Paint that. I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger. Paint these. Okay. Hold down the space bar and get this out of the way. And go to UVs. Planar. Now I know it's in the right direction, so I don't need to go into the option box again. So I'm just going to click on planar. And there it is. So now I'm going to move that up and out of the way. So I'm going to select the object again. Let's go ahead and select it. It looks like my UVs have moved or gone away. So I must have selected the top somehow. So I'm going to go to face mode and paint the top and lay out the UVs again. For some reason they grabbed those. There we go. Hit the W key and move those over. So somehow it grabbed the top again. I don't know how, but it did. So there's the top, there's the bottom. And what we're going to do now is we're going to pack these UVs. So we laid them out, and then now we got to pack them into this UV space. So it's fairly easy. Right click and go to UV. So right click over the object, go to UV. Marquee select the entire UV and move it in. And you're going to hit the R key to scale. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to use the UV space effectively. It's very important that we use every portion of this UV space. So I'm going to put this at the top, or you can put it at the bottom. I'll go ahead and put it at the bottom. And now I'm going to take these guys right here, select them, move this in there, scale it, and scale in so it just barely fits in there. There we go. Okay, I'm going to grab this one right here. Grab that in there. Scale this guy in. And it's probably good to just go ahead and put this over top of the other one, right in the center. And as close as you can, get to the center. And scale it down. Try to get them pretty close. Here we go. Move that over. Okay. So that's good. And that's a good use of space. It's not perfect, but it's good. And so the next thing you do is you right-click over the object in the perspective view. And that's essential. You need to make sure it's selected. And then go in here to polygons, and at the very, very bottom, go to UV snapshot. And then you're going to type in the scale, the size of the resolution that you want to use. And we're kind of locked at 2048 by 2048. And you want the image format to be Targa, okay? And we need to know where to put it. So right now I've got to go into Andy 150 Jeff exercise 1 images. That's fine. Let's go ahead and click on browse and make sure it's going there. We can also tell it where you want to save it. So I prefer it save it in the source images folder. So I'm going to click on that. And you can see that I got the FoodCan reference in there. So if you set your project, you should, and you set up your project correctly, you should have the source images folder available. If not, you'll have to find it and go ahead and type in the name you want. So this one's going to be called FoodCan, all one word, underscore, UV, underscore texture, all caps. And then click Save. When you're all finished with this, click OK, and we'll actually save this UV out. So the thing you want to do now is go ahead and save your scene right now. And we'll go into the next video, which will take us into texturing using base textures, and we'll talk about that and how to grunge those up. Alright, until next time.